Welcome to the premiere of Resonant Faith, turning our ears to God's truth. I'm Brother Jeremiah. We listen to music every day, but we rarely ask, what are we really listening to? Not the lyrics, but the sound itself. Today, we are arguing that the history of Western music isn't just a timeline of style, it's a theological shift. We move from the head to the heart, and finally to the hips. Joining me to guide us through the centuries of sound is our dear brother, Jeremy Serato. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm very
Pleasure to
excited
be here.
for our new program, Resonance Faith. And so I know this is something that you're super passionate about, music and entertainment, and so you got a lot that I've learned, talking to you over the years, and this is going to be a very exciting journey that we're going to go on.
Absolutely.
All right. So my first
Looking
question
forward
to
to
you,
it.
we're going to start off, from the very beginning of time here with music. So can you explain what the tripartite is, the theory of music? So it's a combination of melody, harmony, and rhythm, and how some theologians believe this mirrors the spirit, mind, and body.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. All right, again, welcome. We are going to get into some exciting questions on music. We're going to talk about some history. We're going to talk about some things that caused music to shift over the years, especially over the last few years, kind of reminisce this idea of knowledge shall increase, and a lot of changes take place prophetically speaking, but a lot of changes have taken place also in terms of what Satan has done to introduce a lot of new things to our societies. And so we want to talk about music, and we want to talk about just kind of lay some groundwork here. What Brother Jeremy mentioned was the tripartite theory. It's this kind of when it comes to music, it's like this concept that includes melody, harmony, and rhythm. Melody, of course, being usually the singing. It's kind of the lead, takes the majority of the force of the song. And then you have harmony, which is like an accompaniment. You'll have another singer or some kind of music, an instrument or something like that. It'll accompany that melody. And then the rhythm, of course, that is kind of pulls everything together. It's the timing, it's the consistency, it's the, those types of things. So you have these three that make up our music, that we understand music to be. It's kind of like the building blocks, like an atom has building blocks as well. This would be the building blocks for music. In Scripture, we know that spirit leads us upward, mind is renewed by truth, and the body must be brought under discipline. So let's think about that. Let's lay the groundwork right now. And remember that body must be brought under discipline. So we've got our spirit, and then we've got this mind concept, and then this body, this rhythm. So we're going to kind of pull those together now. Melody traditionally lifts the heart to God, and that has like a spiritual focus, and harmony will invite that thoughtful reflection. So we've got like this mental engagement. And then, of course, a rhythm deals with physical response. And of course, it's kind of like God's law. It keeps you in order, keeps you kind of all in one unit. And without that rhythm, the music kind of falls apart. So rhythm is good. We want rhythm. Rhythm is amazing. You have to have it. But we're going to be talking about what happens when these things fall apart, what happens when this system is taken, flipped upside down on its head, and what does that do for us when it comes to music, and when it comes to wanting to be Christians and wanting to be, keep our minds on the Lord. So let's quickly move into this idea that rhythm deals with the physical response. It can, like we said, it can be holy, but it can also stimulate that lower nature. When rhythm dominates, the body overrides the spirit and mind, and it reverses God's design, his intentions for music to be a blessing. Music is a blessing. It was given by God. It is the language of heaven. And we're going to really dig into this stuff over the next few weeks, but we're going to dig into that as well today. But just for kind of some groundwork, music is a language. It's the language of heaven. God is a beautiful singer. When he created the heaven and the earth and everything that is in this world and all the worlds and all the created, everything that's ever been created, he sang. He's a beautiful musician, and music is in his nature. So music should lead the thoughts to God, and they should not awaken the passions. So I'm gonna stop there for now, brother. That is kind of an overview on this idea, this kind of triune idea of melody, harmony, and rhythm as being connected to kind of like the spirit and mind or body or what have you.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for that insight on that.
Yeah.
Great. So let's start at the beginning, at the early church. There's no beat, so we hear the beat all the time. So that's very interesting to note, actually. And then there's only the voice. So I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from a Gregorian chant. So it's pure melody, monophonic, meaning one voice, or early polyphony. It creates a sense of floating. Wow, I never thought of that. That's really cool. Wow, timeless bass. Ooh. And no foot tapping possible. Wow, can you believe that? So let me go ahead and play this clip here, and then we'll do some analysis on it. Ah, very nice. All right, so my first question. So listening to this chant, it feels almost weightless. Why did the early church fathers intentionally exclude instruments and heavy rhythms from their worship?
I mean, yeah, that's a very, very important question. Well, so one of the reasons is because a lot of this stuff is I mean, when it comes to beats and stuff like that, they didn't have like what we understand beats to be today. We talk about dropping the beat. We talk about low low frequency, high intensity driving music styles, like your low bass, your kick drum, and just these low frequency but high intensity um, sounds. And these types of things, like these guys didn't have that kind of thing. Like a lot of the stuff was created later on down the road, quite a bit later. We're talking about in the 20th century. That's when it really started hitting. I mean, and you have to understand that a lot of it is because also we didn't have the technology that we have today. The technology is only increasing. So we're talking about like through the decades, we are developing, first you've got your acoustics, and then you've got your digital music, and now we've got AI that is creating all kinds of things. You don't even have to be a songwriter. You can just say, I would like my song I would like it to sound like this with these kinds of lyrics. And this song will just pop out. And now you've got this entire song that kind of sort of fits this idea that you had in your mind. So technology is one of the reasons why they did not include it. Another reason is that they recognize that instruments and strong beats were associated with a pagan ceremonies and sensuality and entertainment and these types of things, the things that basically we were told to get control of. Like we said in the beginning, um, we want to make sure that when it comes to the body or rhythm, those two connections, we want to make sure that we can bring those things, bring our bodies under discipline and into subjection. So that's one of the reasons why they didn't include it. The singing voice alone kept the focus on scripture and not sensation. And the singing voice, um, rhythm rather, heavy music was believed to stir the flesh. So now we're kind of getting into a more modern aspect. But in the beginning, when you had secular music, the secular music and the spiritual music, if you will, they sounded very similar. Actually, it sounded very similar. You had your, piano pieces, you had your songs, you had your whatever it is, singers, madrigal singers, or whatever it is. And if they were singing for kings or if they were singing for, royalty or whatever the situation is, they were, whether it was religious or spiritual themed music, or if it was just secular, non-religious type music, the music sounded very similar. It was almost hard. It was actually, in some cases, because we've heard a lot of the different types of music, both secular and non-secular, and they sound very, very similar. So a lot of this stuff was not introduced until later. Some of these things, like when we look at Jubal, the first mention of music was from Cain's lineage, and Jubal was a maker of all kinds of music, and his family line, they were musicians. So music was a big part of their life. Different types of music and things like that. But the kind of music that they played, we wouldn't even necessarily consider as something that is heinous. But music has a power with it. It has a way to keep the mind off of the things of God and put on the things of this world. So the idea was that sacred music should never resemble the world's entertainment. So in any way throughout history, one of the reasons why our church fathers did not include these things was because if it did have, like, let's say drums, for example, you have that example of when Moses was up there and God was doing the 10 Commandments and creating those. And then as they were coming down from the mountain, they hear Joshua says, it sounds like war. It sounds like, some kind of war or something like that. And Moses is saying, no, it's not that. He knew what it was. He knew what they were doing. The people were corrupting themselves. And so they were dancing and they were really getting. We have a lot of biblical references as to what that kind of music does. So a lot of the reasons why our constant theme throughout the Bible is that we are our fathers, the church fathers, whether they be from the Bible or after that time period, you have that this sacred music, this idea that sacred music should never resemble the world's entertainment. And you have musical Christian music, contemporary Christian music nowadays, that you can't even tell the difference between that and like just some song on the radio, any radio station. It's very hard to differentiate the difference between the two, except for the lyrics themselves. So 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and 15 says, I will sing with the Spirit, and I will sing with the understanding also. So when it comes to music, when it comes to singing, when it comes to glorifying God, but whatever we do, we want to glorify God. And there is a way to glorify God with music, and there is a way to glorify the lusts of the flesh with music as well. And so that would be kind of an overarching answer to the question. And so, yeah, brother, back to you.
All right, excellent. All right, so if you notice in the chant, we don't have any beats or anything like that, so it's all text, right? So let's talk about that for a minute here. So how does the lack of a beat change the way our brain process the theology being sung?
That is a great question. So that would be kind of like this idea that we are not being distracted. We're not, so you played that Gregorian chant, and it's actually kind of beautiful. I've heard some Gregorian chants that are not as beautiful. They're kind of like, oh, I'm not too into this. But that one was actually very nice. And so when rhythm is minimized, the brain shifts attention to the meaning of the words. So the words are very powerful. Words are very important when it comes to the song. You want the words to be matching the aesthetics of the music. So, and you would call that being aesthetically correct. So if you have something like really cheerful, really upbeat and fun, and then you have these just morose and depressing, or these just negative lyrics like, Jesus on the cross, like, Sacred Head, that song, Wounded, the hymn, that wouldn't match. So you kind of get this idea where you're focusing on lyrics now, and if you have no beat at all, then the message becomes primary. So in their mind, they want the message. So when it comes to like a cappella or like the Gregorian chant, the idea is that we want our lyrics to really be heard, and we will do that in a way that the music will not interfere with what message we're trying to convey. So if you can do that with music, if you're writing music, piano, guitar, whatever it is, and you do that, and you're able to package it in such a way that you are presenting a message, then you get it. You get the point. But they withhold that beat. They don't remove the rhythm, because rhythm itself is necessary. Without rhythm at all, there is no order, there is no structure, and then that song just kind of flies away, and that's not good either. So chant creates space for meditation, not stimulation. This protects the worshiper from emotional manipulation and keeps theology central. So like we said, music should elevate and ennoble the mind, and it should not bring us down into like this emotional state of excitement, this kind of this debased, this emotional, exciting kind of experience. And so we want to remember Psalm 119:11, "Thy word have I hid in mine heart, that I might not sin against you." So that's the answer I'd give to that one. And so, all right, back to you, brother.
All right, excellent. My next question has to do with melody. So if melody represents the spirit, is this music designed to help us transcend our bodies rather than engage them?
Yes, it can. Chant can basically, enable simplicity. So it definitely helps to quiet that flesh, so the spirit can definitely kind of focus on seeking the Lord. And we're not saying like this is not, definitely by no means saying that this is the only kind of music that is good, because that's not That's not what we're saying at all. But this is kind of giving you an idea of why they did this and kind of why it started out this way. So we're kind of trying to go through a little bit of the history of music, because in the beginning we had a lot of this kind of music, and then you had harp, you had flute, you had different types of stringed instruments, and these were basically instruments that were used to accompany the message that was given through the singing or what have you. And that's just how it was at this time. So, but by doing it this way, by focusing on just the kind of lyrics, the acapella, whatnot, the chant, it minimizes impulses that would come from the lower nature, and the body is present, but it is submissive and it is not leading. So you still have the presence of the rhythm, you still have the presence of these things, but by no means is it leading. No means is it in the front, the forefront of what it is that you are doing. And so just keep in mind that in spiritual warfare, the flesh must be subdued so that truth can take root. So that's basically the idea, is that we want to, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 9:27, I strike a blow. He keeps his body, basically. I keep my body in subjection. And that's what we want to be doing when we are listening to music, writing music, recording music, or anything when it comes to music.
All right. So we're going to move through time. So this is one of my favorite centuries, is the 1700s. So let's really talk this deep dive into the 1700s in particular. So in this time era, we got Bach, and we have Mozart, and we have some, really good music that's starting to come into play that we really enjoy. And even now, for sure, I definitely enjoy the 1700s, like one of my favorite time frames. So let's as we move into the 1700s, music changes substantially. I guess complicated. We discover harmony. The mind takes over. So I'm going to go ahead and play Fugue in G minor. That's by J.S. Bach. And incredible mathematical complexity. So just kind of think about that as we listen to this clip right here. Multiple melodies are being weaved together in perfect order. It demands active listening and intellectual engagement. So let's go ahead and listen to a small piece from Bach and examine it. All right. So my next question. So Bach is often called the fifth evangelist. When we hear fugue like this, how does the sheer mathematical order of the harmony reflect the nature of God?
Yeah, that's amazing. Definitely reflects God's order. Bach's music is definitely mathematically precise. I would say that God is a God of order. God is a God of, God's nature is order and not chaos. And so you look at the Bach's style, it's very, the order is amazing, and the harmony teaches that beauty flows from the structures, the disciplines, and the laws of the music that God has created. So he has this kind of law about music. There are principles in the Bible. There's principles that we find, science is coming out and showing those principles as well, and revealing to us what it is that God has established as far as as music, and we understand that God is a God of incredible mathematical skill. I mean, he created it all. His his mathematical abilities are unfathomable. And so music is math. Music is very mathematical, rhythm, and all these things. I mean, it's partly rhythm. It's amazing because you're using rhythm, and God is a God of order and rhythm and law. And then you are adding something to it. You're adding melody and harmony and all these kinds of musical ideals and principles, and you're combining these things together, and you're creating absolute beauty. I mean, or you could take those things and use them in the wrong direction. And so that's kind of what we're talking about right now. But the idea is that God's music strengthens the mind, and it encourages focused, intelligent worship. So you're listening to it, and you're appreciating it, and you're thinking about the intricacy of it, and it's just expanding your mind. Your frontal lobe is activated. You're thinking clearly on these things. Science, by the way, has come out and shown that this type of music actually heals the brain. It's in the right types um, of wavelengths, and it heals the brain, and it strengthens the mind. And God is the author of order, harmony, and beauty. And we are absolutely amazed by what God can do in this. So that's basically kind of like in a nutshell. But just to close, I would say also 1 Corinthians 14:33, for God is not a God of disorder, but a God of peace. And we understand that also in terms of music.
Excellent. All right. So this music requires the mind to process. Do you think we lost the ability to worship God with our intellects in modern music, preferring only to feel?
100%. 100%. We have absolutely done that. The types of music that we're listening to now, it is, I mean, if we could go on and on about the things that it does to the body, we could go on and on concerning the things it does to the mind. And it's very, it's addictive. A lot of the music that is being put out today, and we look at some of the artists and what they say about music. I mean, there's so many different, uh, you know, points that we could make about it. I mean, we could go into the occult and talk about what the occult says about it, and the artists of today. We could talk about what they say about music. We could talk about science. We could talk about history and how music was essentially just kind of very similar over the years, over the decades, and then over the last few centuries, it just exploded into this, kind of like how our minds have expanded. Prophecy has been revealed, but also sin has become perfected. Musical styles have become perfected, if you will, and things that God never intended for us to do with music has been done, and we are using those things and calling them music. So I would say that music, as we understand it today, uh, bypasses the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is the place of your mind where you think, where you reason, logic, the place where you do your critical thinking. And music it doesn't ask you, hey, is this okay? Is this good? If someone goes outside of your house and takes one of those jackhammers and just starts going da 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 da, that's really bothering. I mean, it can really, really mess up the mind. But if someone turns on the radio and then you hear, you know, it's like someone taking a frying pan to your head. Um, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect you in one way or another. And so, yeah, I would say that without intellectual engagement, worship becomes more experience based, kind of flesh based instead of truth based, for good. and we must guard against music that shuts off discernment. And so, yeah, for sure, music does bypass the frontal lobe, so we don't really get to reason whether it is good or bad for us. We have to take that music intellectually and we have to put it up into our frontal lobe and ask ourselves, is this something that is helping me? Is this helping me grow in Christ? Is it helping me? Or is it just something that makes me feel good? Is it causing a dopamine like hit, like a drug would, and making me feel good physiologically? Is that the response, or is it actually legitimately bringing me closer to Jesus? And so, yeah, I would say that modern music has definitely affected our minds. It's become emotional experience, an experience thing.
All right, excellent. All right, my next question is about rhythm. Okay, and rhythm is something that's like really big and prevalent in today's music, as we know. Okay, so in this case with Bach, rhythm does exist, but it's strictly controlled and very orderly. In this golden ratio, where melody, harmony, and rhythm were perfectly balanced. So were they perfectly balanced? Would you say?
Yeah, I would say that they were very well balanced. Yeah, very well balanced. um, yeah, it melody, harmony, rhythm work together in this. It's kind of like a hierarchy. You have rhythm, and then you have you have melody, then you have harmony, and then you have rhythm. Melody is taking the front seat, um, and it is moving forward. It's driving the song. You hear the rhythm. I'm sorry, the melody. You hear that beautiful melody being sung in whatever kind of song it is, and then you have whatever accompaniment may be there, whether it is music, because you have to have a chord progression behind that, or it could just be a cappella. Maybe you have singers going along with that, or it could be a combination of both things. But then you have rhythm. Rhythm, when we think of rhythm, we think, okay, so I did melody and I did harmony, and now we need to break out the drums, or now we need to like really like get the clapping in there, or we really need to get the whatever it is in there. But what we don't understand is that rhythm is already there. I mean, if you are doing it in timing, if you're doing it in the timing that you're supposed to, it's going to be there. Whatever music you're playing, it's going to have rhythm. And so we have that. And our problem is that so what Satan has realized is that this rhythm has become the favorite. It's become, and he has done that. An enemy hath done this. He's the one that did this. He made rhythm the most prominent part of it. He basically flipped it upside down and put rhythm on top and melody on the bottom, and harmony right there kind of in the middle, and basically switched those two. And now that's why you have almost all of our songs, the prominent type of thing that you're hearing now is rhythm, whether it is drums or just noise or just some kind of hi-hat, snare, some kind of bass, some kind of beat, something. It's always there in your face, and we don't realize that God is a God of order. He's a peaceful, gentle gentleman. He's quiet. He's reserved. In peace and quiet you shall uh, uh, keep your souls. And so God is this kind of spirit, and we take this rhythm and we run with it. We quite literally run with it. So we're looking at is it balanced well? I would say yeah. I would say when it comes to the Baroque Bach and his music, we're looking at definitely rhythm supported, but it's not controlling the music. It is accompanying it. Well, I would say that it is keeping it together. It's like glue. Without the rhythm, you have nothing. And so, yeah, I would say When it comes to music, you want perfect order, like with God. God is a God of perfect order. And if the heavens declare the glory of God, we want to make sure that the music does as well.
All right. So before we go into like one of my favorite music genres, we're gonna. So I just want to take this moment to recognize our audience. Uh, so um, so let's say hi to a couple people here. So Jesus is away is watching from Washington. So thank you.
Thank you.
For
Jesus is the way.
Yep. Thank you for joining us today. And so just a couple comments here. It's a good topic. So thank you for
Amen.
that. And then also Jesus is the way. Also have this comment right here. It helps my frontal lobe. With this music. Yep. That's as well. And then another one I really appreciate here. We must protect our children's mind
Yes.
at every second. Absolutely.
Yes, 100%.
Yep. And then Satan snared my parents and what seemed innocent and had
Mm.
avenue to us.
Oh
Right?
yeah, definitely seems innocent. Yeah, people don't realize how music is one of Satan's main, if not his major way of capturing souls.
Yep. Oh, and then I got another shout out. So
All
hello,
right.
Spicy Brandon Maggie. So welcome to our podcast.
Welcome.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about jazz. That was
All
my.
right.
That's like I told you like many times like how much I love jazz. So let's talk. Let's really deep dive into that. Okay, so here's my. So we're gonna listen to some jazz here. So the syncopated shift, so which is ragtime and jazz. Um, this came in the 20th century. The great shift accelerates. The beat starts to fight against the melody. Syncopation arrives. Okay,
Syncopate.
so we're going to go ahead and listen to the Maple Leaf Rag by Scott Joplin.
All right.
So the birth of American pop music. So keep that in mind. So I never realized that.
Hmm.
But it's sort of right there. So when about is this? Is this like in the 1920s or so, or what'd you say?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on when it is, but I know that a lot of this stuff started picking up between the 20s, 30s, and
Yep.
going into the 40s. This is before the 50s. This is before Elvis. This is before all that kind of stuff, before Robert Johnson, even. This is before a lot of that stuff. So you have kind of these older, and a lot of it is like the black culture, and it wasn't like more in the mainstream until later. But they all kind of borrowed from each other, and they kind of took from each other, and in the end, they all basically took the same types of. They all ended up producing the same types of music.
Yep. So since this is to be like one of my
Yeah.
favorite type of music,
Oh man.
so besides the 1700s, oh, I love the 1700s. And then I would say
Yeah.
jazz is one of them. We're gonna have a whole episode just talking about jazz because it's like
Oh
so.
yeah. Oh yes.
Yep,
Absolutely.
talk
Yeah.
about jazz, and of course, some of our other favorites that we talked about, mine the 1980s and everything like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. We've gone through this. I music, every part of it was my life, and I mean still is, but in a different way. But I mean all these eras, right? Like the 60s and the
Yep.
70s and all these different genres and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I love this stuff. I listen to it always. Every time I go into a store, I'll hear a song, and then I'll remember where I was, when I first heard it. And so it's
Mhm.
very powerful. Music is so powerful. And I think it was Aerosmith that said that rock and roll is the most powerful drug. And these guys know what they're talking about. They really do. So music is not a joke. It's very serious. And, and so basically what you're talking about right now is leading into rock and roll. It's leading into rock. It leads into a lot of things. It branches out. So it's very, very fundamental, what we're going to talk about. And go ahead and play a little bit longer of the clip.
Okay, no, absolutely. Okay, so as we're watching the clip, so I want us to observe a couple things here. Okay, so here's the observation. So the left hand keeps time. Oh, I never thought about that before. That's interesting. But the right hand plays off the beat. It makes you want to move. Okay, so let's observe this. So we're gonna go ahead and play once again the Maple Leaf Rag by Scott Joplin. Let's listen to it, and we'll listen a little longer this time. All right. So jumping from the 1700s to this, maybe the 1920s or so.
Yes.
There's a lot of things going on here. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So my first question is, so that was the Maple Leaf Rag. Technically, ragtime means ragged time. What exactly is happening rhythmically here that made people at the time so uncomfortable?
Yes, absolutely. So let me just say I was wrong about the time era. This is a lot earlier than I thought it was, because we were talking about 1920s and on. But that was the ragtime era is it's basically early 1900s. And so but the main time period you would say would go all the way up to about the 1917-ish, like before the 1920s. So you have a shift right around that time, but that's kind of where we are right now. We're talking about Scott Joplin. So but this ragtime syncopation troubled people back then, because we're not talking about like, okay, here's the thing. There's a reason why this stuff troubled the people back then. You have a piano and it's got 88 keys and you can pretty much do beautiful things on it. You can do not so beautiful things on it. It's just kind of like this neutral kind of canvas, if you will. You can paint what you will on it. You can play what you will on it. Right? So it's neutral. There's nothing wrong with the piano. But it doesn't have, like, the piano itself, it doesn't have some kind of trap set, drum set, rhythm set kind of thing connected to it. It doesn't, like, if you play a certain chord or this or that, you don't hear like boom, and you don't hear all these kinds of things. That's more modern stuff. We're talking about modern things here. But now we're kind of going back, because we're going through history. And we're at around the 1900s, early 1900s. This is when just the piano. It's just the piano. It's just the instrument. But yet there's something that happened that really bothered people. It really, really concerned a lot of people. And so that's what this is about. That's what this conversation is about. Why did it trouble people? Well, it troubled people because people started realizing that music was shifting and changing. And it was around that time period, specifically around the late 1800s, early 1900s. That is where you get your shift. But it doesn't go mainstream until like the mid 1900s, like 1950s. With Elvis, and then we have our Beatles, and then it just goes downhill from there. And you had all these people, these legalists that were always saying, this is of the devil, that is of the devil. Maybe their approach wasn't the best, right? Maybe, possibly, but they were essentially, in many aspects, they were correct in what they were saying. And one of the things that we need to discuss is, because right now we're talking a little bit history, we're talking a little bit science, we're talking a little bit of these types of things, but we also want to get into the occult. We want to talk about what they believe about this stuff, and what these artists have to say about these things. Because once you really get into that stuff, then it's hard for you to justify that these things are not wrong. But syncopation is what we're talking about at this very moment. Syncopation is a very serious thing. Syncopation is when you have a rhythm, you have a melody, and then you have kind of like this playing off of each other type of thing. It creates literally this almost this physical excitement. It is this overwhelming excitement. It stirs this restless, but also this flesh-driven response. And so you get this heart rate increase. Your frontal lobe is like, whoa, I'm not even really thinking anymore like I was. I'm not even really contemplating the things I was before. We're not focusing on melody. We're not focusing on lyrics. We're not thinking about the music, or how about this? We're not appreciating the music on an intellectual basis that is reverential and things like that. We are now experiencing music as an emotional and as a flesh kind of driven thing. And that isn't a good way. That's not actually God's intended way for us to listen to music. And so what happened was that these people started realizing that this was the first step, or one of the first steps, towards a modern rhythm based or rhythm dominant culture. And that's really what this presentation is about. The shift from melody and harmony and beauty to a rhythm dominant or rhythm based culture. That's the shift. That's what took place. Melody and rhythm were switched by the enemy, and we have to be aware of music that excites the senses, um, and it does not elevate the soul. And basically, if we're talking about it from a Bible perspective, we know that the Bible talks about temperance. Temperance is written all throughout the Bible. What is temperance? We talked about it in some of our earlier presentations. Self-control, checking yourself. What did we say in the beginning? Keeping your body into subjection, not allowing your body to control or rule you. So ragtime is essentially one of the major shifts toward a major step towards a rhythm dominant culture. And then you have complete separate Bible studies on what the flesh, living the flesh, walking in the flesh, and lack of self-control, intemperance. We're told 1 Peter 5:8 that we want to be sober, vigilant and sober, because the adversary is coming after us like a roaring lion so as to devour us. So that's what we need to be understanding. We need to understand that that God actually wants us to be sober. And when we listen to music as well, we want to be sober. And some of the things that we listen to, it only takes a few minutes before our frontal lobe is hijacked and the limbic system of our brain takes over. That part of our brain that deals with fight or flight and lust, sex, food, these drives. When that takes over, we're in a very dangerous place. We want the frontal lobe to be kind of keeping the rest of our deeper animalistic responses, because a lot of these things are good. Like we need food, right? God has given procreation and things like that. And these things can be a great blessing in the right contexts. But if they're outside of the context, God's biblical, truthful context, then we are in big trouble. So the frontal lobe shuts down when we listen to a lot of this kind of stuff, because what it does is it puts the brain into a state of stress. And so the brain says, I don't know what's going on here. I don't understand it, but I'm going to release dopamine to protect the whole machinery, because we are under some kind of distress. We're under some kind of problem here. So that's what the body does. And then the body gets filled with this feel good kind of experience. And now we're listening to this music. We're like, man, this feels good, sounds good, I feel good, and it's game over. So we're basically putting ourselves in this game over experience where there is no way to fight the urges unless we can say, well, okay, let's stop. Let's stop for a minute. Let's stop. Makes me feel really good, yes. But I need to think about this for a minute. What is this doing? What is this doing? What is it doing to me? And I'm not saying God can't work with whatever kind of music you're listening to. God can work in really amazing ways. But in general, the rule is this stuff is basically, the idea is that this is rhythm-based kind of mindset thinking. And so to pull it all together, you have a lot of people who are seeing, they may not be able to explain it. They may be saying, I don't know what's going on with this ragtime stuff. I don't know what's going on with this kind of thing. But you did have groups of people who were warning against this kind of music even back in the late 1800s. They were warning about the power of music, the potential dangers of what music can do, how it can lead you in the wrong direction. You had people who were warning against that stuff, but there were a lot of people, and I would say arguably most people that listened to this kind of stuff, it was new, it was fun, it was exciting, but they didn't understand, why is this so dangerous? And so that's pretty much been the problem throughout history, is that we've not been able to give an answer for the faith that is in us. We just have this kind of inkling. Oh, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. But there's a lot that can be said about it, brother. But ultimately, scientifically, when it comes to the brain, and I hope we can pull up a lot of these quotes. Yeah. So that's a kind of a nutshell of what you're asking.
Okay. All right. So my next question, is there a theological validity to the criticism that syncopation disrupts the order of the soul, or was it just a cultural elitist?
Yeah. Good question. Well, I mean, there can be cultural biases, but the spiritual concern is definitely real. The culture can definitely, shape thought. It can definitely do that. But we do understand that, putting culture, kind of stepping back and putting culture aside, we would say that syncopation in general is actually, from a scientific perspective, creates a type of mental agitation and can cause, as a result, a weakened self-control. That's kind of the basic idea of what this is about. So, but not all syncopation is sinful. So if that is something that it sounds like we are saying, we're not saying that all syncopation is wrong or sinful or anything like that, because what we're doing is we are warning, we're trying to bring attention to the power of music and show that through syncopation, Satan can cause us, and really we don't really need much help from Satan, because if we listen to a song and it sounds good, for example, if we eat something, we like what it tastes like, we're going to go back to it. So if something is introduced, we like what it sounds like, we are, going to go back to it. So there is a way to, when it comes to syncopation, it's kind of like we look at it kind of like food. If you have a dish and it has, no salt, no seasoning whatsoever, nothing, it's going to be terrible. And so with music, you need to have rhythm. You need to have these basic building blocks of what makes music music. But when you start making rhythm the focus, the strongest point, when you start playing with syncopation to manipulate the body to cause these physiological responses, then that's not what God intended either. So we want to be very careful. If you're throwing in just a little bit of salt here, a little bit of garlic there, a little bit of seasoning here and there, and you're making it to where it tastes really kind of palatable, like reasonable, then that's good. But if you are over seasoning something, if you just start dumping salt on your food, it's going to be terrible. And there are people who get to the point where their appetites themselves have become so perverted because maybe the way they were raised, or maybe just not exercising self-control for so many years, that they've become perverted and passionate in the way they eat. It's the same with music. It's the same with music. We start pepper, and next thing you know, we're adding jalapenos and habaneros and ghost peppers, and it just keeps getting more and more and more and more and more until you're just overwhelmed. You're overwhelming your body, and your body is responding by saying yes, yes, but your brain doesn't know what's going on. So you have this experience where your brain is releasing these feel-good hormones. And in many cases, we talked about the sex hormones. I'm sure we're going to get into that at some point. But your brain does also release the gonadotropins through these very types of things, through syncopations and rhythm. Rhythm is a wonderful thing, but rhythm is also very bass and low and potentially very, sensual. So rhythm can be very sensual. And so we have to really understand that we got to be very careful how we package all this stuff together. And so I would say in general, there could be a cultural bias depending on whatever culture you were in, because a lot of these people that we were talking about earlier, when they looked at this, like ragtime, for example, ragged time, think of it. When they looked at a lot of this stuff, they said, well, this isn't right. This doesn't sound right. But maybe the culture was saying, I'm not used to this, right? So then you have other people that are coming in and saying, well, what about it isn't right? Some of those people may be willing to hear the truth. Maybe some of those people are just saying, I don't care, but I want to know what the answer is anyway. And if you don't have an answer, fine. So the culture may be afraid of something new, and it could be something new that is good. There's nothing wrong with modern or contemporary music. There's a lot of people that say only hymns are good, or only spiritual, hymns or scripture songs and things like that. Only those things are good. Those things are good. But you can write music that is reverent and respectful, and it doesn't have to be, they look at a time period. Or they look at, they're very rigid, right? We don't want to be legalistic, but we want to be very careful at the same time. We want to actually use this frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, to analyze what it is that we're listening to, and not let culture just say, oh, it's wrong because. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we have an answer, and we can pull from different sources, like the historical context of music. How did these things start? Where did they begin? We want to look at science. We want to look at the brain. There's a lot of studies out there that are showing what this stuff, certain music styles do to the brain. One of those examples is that, working out, they did a study, and those people that were working out and listening to classical music did better than those who were listening to, the kind of music that pumps you up, right? Those really low frequency, high intensity type songs. And so, yeah, culture can definitely affect it, but we want to make sure that we're not affected by culture in a negative way either.
All right, excellent. So before we go to our final session in this podcast, so just a couple comments that I want us to look through. So the first comment was 1894 was a year for the maple leaf rag.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that
Yes.
research
Yes.
and giving us exact dates on that. So, all right, and so another comment here. So the devil always flips everything upside down and backwards.
Isn't that for sure?
Yeah.
Amen
Another
to that.
comment here. Ragtime kind of makes me think
Wow.
of our music
Yes.
in the olden days. Yeah, that's true as well.
Wow, that is true. Yes.
Activating the Olympic system. It's almost.
She means limbic system, the
Limbic
other part,
system.
the fight or flight part of the brain.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's almost as if the devil had figured out how to turn us on our passions.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. Having come from the dirty, nasty, evil walk world, no way will listen to CCM or anything that's questionable.
Wow.
My gut tells me right away.
Yes. Wow, that is so true. That is so true. Yeah. Listening to that, the CCM, the contemporary Christian music, to me, not every song on there is bad, because I've heard some songs like Flowers from Samantha Ebert, very reverent, very respectful. That's on there. But like 9 out of 10 or more, maybe 99 out of 100 songs on CCM stations, it's nothing more. I got a wasp in my face. Come on. I got but these songs are it's nothing more than, like, if you were, like, my wife was telling me the other day, she was saying, because she'll do some delivery stuff and she'll hear these cars and it'll just be like pumping music in the car, just really, really loud, boom, 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 like that kind of thing. And then I was telling her, I'm like, you sure it wasn't Christian music? Because nowadays you can't even really tell the difference between Christian music, contemporary Christian music, and there we go, and and worldly music. So we got to be very careful with that kind of thing.
All right, excellent. So we're going to go on to the final module for this podcast, and this is the Rhythm Kingdom, some modern beats. So we arrive at today. The transition is complete. Melody is often minimal, and rhythm is king. So we can keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to go ahead and play another clip. So this is God's Plan by Drake. So it's modern.
Boy.
Yep. The melody is limited.
Oh boy.
Drone-like. The track is defined by hi-hats, the kick drum, and the vibe. All right, so let's listen to Drake.
Play a little bit, just a little bit longer than what we have been playing. Unless it's just completely unbearable, then I understand.
Okay, all right, let's see what we have here.
All right.
I don't wanna die for them to miss me. Yes, I see the things that they wishing on me. Hope I got some brothers that outlive me. They gon' tell the story, shit was different with me. God's plan, God's plan. I hold back, sometimes I won't. Yeah. I feel good, sometimes I don't. Hey, no. I finesse down Western Road. Hey, next. Might go down to G.O.D. Yeah, wait. I go hard on Southside G. Yeah, wait. I make sure that Northside E.
All right. We're good. You get the idea, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so God's plan, really? I mean, that's an interesting choice. Sometimes when people do these music programs, they will kind of cover the like the spiritual type themed genres and then the secular genres, and but in this case we are going straight from kind of your pretty much secular. We're kind of graduating upward and kind of evolving into this kind of our modern secular music. And even though it says God's plan, that's interesting. I would like to look at those lyrics at some point, see what those say.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. So in modern tracks like this, the beat is the hook. If our culture is now obsessed with the body, which is rhythm, how does that affect our spiritual formation?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, and that's what we're talking about, is that we don't think about these things. We don't really want to think about them. And I get it. There was one point in time where I was producing music back in my before Christ days, where I was, producing rap music, hanging around rappers, and my understanding of music was very, very different than what it is now. And so I've learned a lot over the years, but it was, it took time for me. I think it was very, very difficult. One woman at church one day said to me, one of these days, you're going to completely have a different view of music. He's going to reach you and he's going to change you. And I'm like, I almost felt like uncomfortable. Like, no, what are you doing? What are you saying? Stop that. Don't say that. And then it ended up happening. So I say that because not everyone is going to just snap their finger and say, okay, all right, I'm done with this stuff. You may have some challenges. You may have some struggles. You may want to challenge us on this. There's a lot of stuff that we want to get into. We want to get into the science behind how the brain responds to music. We want to get into, not just the history, because we're talking about history right now, and how all these centuries and centuries and millennia, we had very similar music, just very similar. And then all of a sudden, over the last two centuries, it just exploded like an atomic bomb. It just changed overnight. And then you have all these people who are saying, this is these two parties. This is of the devil. This is not of the devil. This is good, and so it may take time to come to the truth that music is potentially very, very dangerous, and could be, because we talked about this before, but music itself could become the unpardonable sin if Christ is coming to you and speaking or shining light, truth, upon your pathway, and you reject that light, but you were convinced in your conscience that what is being said is true, or whatever Christ has been trying to reach you and telling you that it is true. We don't want to turn our back to the Holy Spirit. So, but we want to touch every base. We want to hit every point. So it is not just an opinion. Doesn't come across as just, oh, this is just something that we're saying. It took me a long time to get to this place. What we're talking about right now is we are shifting from heavenly, or at least a more reverent, a more reasonable, a more standard style of music with the Baroque era. We're talking about 1700s. That's not even that. That's fairly recently, the 1700s. So, and then we got the 1800s and all the way up until late 1800s, when you start getting that's the shifting time. That's the change. And so that's recent. All that is very, very recent. So we're walking us through this shift from heavenly to earthly. And as society secularized, entertainment became a major priority for us. Instead of focusing on the things that sustain us, with all these revolutions, the Industrial Revolution, the digital technology revolutions, all these changes, things became easy to get a hold of. The agriculture movements and all these different things, they just became our priorities as first world countries, less so third world countries, but our priorities in general changed as well. And so now we're looking at, okay, well, we've got all the things that we need. It's easy to sustain life. I'm not trying to work desperately so that I have enough money or I have enough food to live, to survive, or to keep my family alive. It's not like that anymore. You could just work any old job, get food, and now, okay, since it's easy to survive and live and thrive, even now, what we want to talk about is, well, what can we do to help us? What here we are now, entertain us. This idea of um, being entertained, and so we have a rhythm dominant music kind of mirroring a culture obsessed with pleasure and self. So we are looking at a great, great shift, a great, great change. And this shift parallels a decline in spiritual depth and reverence. Along with TV, and there have been studies as well, Scott, Ritzma, other people, there's many people that have covered this. They've shown the trajectory of introducing television into a society and then watching that society within about 30 or so years just decline, like shoot down. And we're not even talking about the bad stuff. We're talking about like the Leave It to Beavers, because that's when this particular study was done. It was at that time period. So but we're looking at a shift right now, and we're seeing the same thing. It's not just with TV, it's not just with movies, it's with music. They go hand in hand. Music just happens to be that kind of outlet that really turns on a person, really turns on their body, and the things that they wouldn't do before that. You could just do your own experiment. Turn a TV on. Maybe you don't want to do this experiment, that's fine. But if you watch movies, if you watch television shows, if you were to theoretically remove all the sound and it's just spoken word, just words, that's it. It would be painful. It would be a painful experience to go through that television show or that whatever movie or whatever it is, because it's music that breathes life into whatever it is, whether it is you're trying to convey an emotion. How do these movies succeed? How do they succeed um, in in s- in in affecting people's emotions? Well, they introduce a music that is suspenseful. They introduce music that is sad. They introduce music that is scary. They introduce music that is happy, that is lovely, or whatever the case. It's music that actually creates the emotion, and removing that, it would completely tear apart the movie or whatever it is. So these things have to go hand in hand, and Satan knows that. He knows that music is so powerful, and without it, he could not turn on a person, so to speak, and shut down a person as well. So you're turning them on in the wrong way, and you're shutting them down in the wrong way. So you're doing these two things. So quick kind of just pulling it all together. You would say that when it comes to we're talking about the shift, and we're talking about how the music culture has shaped us spiritually. If music constantly targets the body, then believers we're talking about Christians, it doesn't matter. They will become emotionally driven instead of spirit led. And they will become so used to being emotionally driven that anything besides emotional movement is painful to them. They don't want the spirit. They don't have a taste for the spirit. It would be the exact same thing as feeding a child. Is just take a child that has grown up on fast food and is sitting them down and eating a whole grain piece of bread maybe, and some broccoli or whatever, tofu. It's just like, whoa, gross. That's just, they don't have a taste for it, or whatever the case. Whether it's seasoned or not well, whether it's seasoned well or not, they will look at that and see that as a problem, as a dangerous thing. The same with music. If you have grown up, or if you have become so accustomed to listening to certain types of music that are extremely seasoned or overly seasoned, like we were talking about, then anything else is going to feel painful to you. And that is maybe a good time to fast for a season, and let the Lord come in and rewire your taste buds for music, or rewire your taste buds for recreation, or whatever it is. So we would say that the shift parallels a decline in spiritual depth and reverence, and we don't want to do that. So culture has definitely shaped us spiritually, and we are being controlled by the culture in which we live.
All right, excellent. So as we close episode 1, we aren't saying rhythm is bad. God created
By
the
no
heartbeat.
means.
Yeah. But how do we ensure that in our own listening, the body doesn't bully the spirit and the mind into silence?
So how to prevent the body from overpowering? So that's a great question. So we want to prevent this experience. We want to make sure that we are definitely guarding our inputs, that we are asking the questions that we need to ask. We want to ask, is this actually helping? Is this actually, am I listening to this because it makes me feel so good? And is that the only reason why I'm listening to it? Music does make you feel good in it, as it should. But these are questions we really ask ourselves. We guard our inputs, and we need to stop feeding the flesh with music that has been crafted for the flesh. Specifically, we want to make sure that we choose music that leads to clarity, sobriety, and humility, where we are able to bow down before the Lord. Have you listened to a song recently that broke your heart and actually led you to seeking the Lord's will for your life? We want to balance. We want to make sure that we can keep our balance with the spirit, the harmony, the melody, the harmony, and the rhythm, or the spirit and the mind and the body. We want to make sure that these are in their right context in situations. Otherwise, we will be moved by these things and hurt, and they will control us. So we want to make sure that we're testing music by its fruit. We'll ask ourselves, how does this affect me, first of all? And then how does it affect my children? Can I see that this is affecting them like a drug would, like caffeine, or like some kind of food product that like sweets, donuts, or some things like that. And is this affecting my children in a positive way? Is it affecting? Are the fruits affecting people in a positive way or in a negative way? And so ultimately, what we want to do is we do not want rhythm to be our master. We want rhythm to be our servant. Amen. If the beat overpowers the message, then it violates the command to make a melody in your heart. True worship must engage the heart and understanding, not just the senses. If by listening to music you have shut down the ability to think practically, clearly, intelligently, then you have lost the point of sacred, godly, intended music.
Excellent. All right. So we have traveled from the cathedral to the club in 1 hour. The great shift is real. The question is, are you listening passively, or are you just turning your eyes? So next week, we pause the history lesson to ask a philosophical question. Can a secular song be Christian in its beauty? We are discussing the theology of aesthetics and the common grace. So that'll be for next week's program. So at the same time, Wednesday at 7:30 Central Time. So we look forward then. Any final words?
Just I think that a quick Bible verse. Philippians 4:8 is a good test when it comes to what kinds of music choices that we want. Whatsoever things are true, and the whole thing, lovely, pure, of good report, whatsoever things are noble, think on these things. That's Philippians 4:8.
Excellent. Well, signing off. So thank you, Brother Jeremy, for your knowledge in this matter, and we look forward to our future episodes.
Amen.
Amen.
God bless.
God bless.